"You worthless failure!" Eleanor Hargrove screamed, her voice echoing across the pristine waters of Blue Ridge Spring as news cameras rolled and captured every vicious word. "You're a broken-down former researcher hiding out here because you can't face the real world. This neighborhood doesn't need parasites like you monopolizing our natural resources." She stood knee-deep in the crystal-clear water, her $3,000 designer suit completely soaked, jabbing her finger at me like I had personally ruined her life. Behind her, 3 local news crews filmed the spectacle while county officials stood in stunned silence. The morning sun glinted off the water droplets in her perfectly styled silver blonde hair, making her look like some enraged spirit risen from the depths to deliver her verdict. "You killed your lab partner through your own negligence. And now you're trying to destroy our community by stealing water that belongs to everyone," she raged, her face twisted with a fury that seemed to come from some dark place deep inside. "People like you are everything wrong with America, selfish, damaged failures who think the world owes them something." The crowd of about 50 homeowners let out collective gasps. Several people actually stepped back, as if her words carried real force. She had just crossed every boundary of decency on live television, and the cameras recorded it all. That was when I calmly pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in months. "Uncle James, it's Marcus. Remember that federal environmental grant fraud case you've been building for 2 years? Well, the primary suspect is standing right in front of me right now, confessing to everything on live TV." The silence that fell was so complete you could hear the water bubbling up through the limestone 30 feet away. Even the news crews seemed to hold their breath, sensing something big was unfolding. Eleanor's face went from angry red to ghostly pale in seconds as the name sank in. Her eyes darted frantically between me and the cameras still rolling, realizing she had just destroyed herself in the most public way possible. "Did you just say Uncle James?" she whispered, her voice barely carrying over the gentle flow of the spring. "County Commissioner James Whitaker," I replied, loud enough for every microphone to catch it. "You know, the man leading the state's environmental fraud task force that's been investigating fraudulent conservation grants for the past 2 years." That's when she turned and tried to run. "My name is Marcus Ellison, and 18 months before that confrontation, my world ended in an instant. The lab accident that killed my research partner, Dr. Laura Bennett, didn't just take her life, it took mine in every way that mattered. We were working on groundwater cleanup techniques when a chemical reaction I miscalculated went horribly wrong. Laura died immediately. I survived with 3rd-degree burns, months of painful skin grafts, and a survivor's guilt that devoured me daily. The insurance settlement was substantial enough to let me disappear to somewhere quiet, but that money always felt like blood money. Every dollar reminded me of Laura's sharp mind, her kind heart, the professional and personal future we had been building together. I had loved her, and she died because I was off by 0.03% in a mixture ratio. That minuscule mistake cost everything. About 6 months after the accident, during one of my sessions with trauma counselor Dr. Margaret Lawson, who specialized in helping professionals cope with workplace disasters, she mentioned something unexpected. "I have a former patient who left very specific instructions in his will," she said cautiously. "Harold Kensington was a billionaire who believed in second chances for people who had lost everything, but still valued protecting the natural world. His estate includes a 47-acre property with natural springs in the North Carolina mountains. It goes to someone meeting very particular criteria. Those criteria seemed written for me, a scientist who had experienced devastating loss, who understood how fragile life is, and who needed a place to heal while safeguarding something precious. The requirement was simple but significant. I had to live on the property for 2 full years and prove the spring system warranted protection from commercial exploitation. Harold had been an eccentric pioneer who built his fortune in renewable energy long before it became mainstream. He spent 40 years quietly buying up land around this hidden spring system, keeping it secret from developers who would have paved it over for luxury homes with artificial water features. His geological surveys, stored in a safe that came with the property, revealed the truth. This was no ordinary spring. It was the headwaters for the regional aquifer, capable of supplying pure water to 50,000 homes. It produced 3,000 gallons per hour of water, so clean it needed no treatment, potentially worth $200 million if developed. Harold had protected this secret for decades, and now he was passing the responsibility to me. The transfer was handled quietly by his estate attorney, Victoria Reed, a no-nonsense woman who seemed to know details about my background that I hadn't shared. She gave me the keys to a comfortable but modest cabin overlooking the spring and a folder full of Harold's work, surveys, water quality reports, and plans for permanent sustainable protection of what he called nature's perfect creation. Living there felt like stepping into a different life. The cabin was equipped with solar panels Harold had installed years before they were common. The spring was stunning, clear water emerging from limestone bedrock, forming a pool of deep blue that looked almost unreal but was entirely natural. For the first few months, I thought I had found some measure of peace. The solitude let my burned skin heal without stares. The sound of the water masked the nightmares where I still woke screaming Laura's name. Gradually, I slept through the night again, and the weight of guilt lightened just enough for me to function. The problem started when Eleanor Hargrove learned I was there. She wasn't just the president of the Pinehaven Estates HOA. She was a former environmental lobbyist who had made her career helping corporations appear green while hiding their pollution. When she became HOA president for the upscale neighborhood built downhill from my property, she applied those same deceptive tactics on a personal level. Eleanor had the look of calculated authority, silver blonde bob that probably cost more than most monthly mortgages, designer outfits in television-friendly colors, and a smile sharp enough to cut. She acted like someone who had never been told no by anyone important, and her connections backed it up. Her big project was the Blue Ridge Springs Preservation Initiative, a proposal designed to sound impressive to federal grant officials. It was bold in its deception. She planned to declare my spring a community asset under HOA oversight, then secure federal funds for restoration and education. The $500,000 application was already submitted. It promised observation platforms, educational signs, school tours, and model sustainability. In reality, she intended a few cheap signs and to pocket most of the money while gaining control over water worth millions. The harassment began subtly. A $2,000 fine showed up for alleged unauthorized water retention creating hazards. It looked official, with citations and deadlines. Then came phony inspectors in uniforms, taking photos, samples, and measurements. The county had no record of them. Social media followed, a neighborhood group posting about the selfish upstream hoarder denying the community its resources. Posts were worded to seem concerned, but vilified me. Next, a fake health department notice claiming contamination and demanding I connect to municipal water at my expense. My independent tests proved the water was purer than city supplies. Cameras I installed caught the real activity. Surveyors at dawn, temporary monitoring equipment, soil sampling under cover of night. They were gathering data for her grant and development plans. Records showed her firm, Green Horizon Advisors, had taken over $2 million in similar grants, doing little real work while paying insiders. This was her most ambitious scam, but it hinged on controlling private property protected by stronger federal water laws. Unknown to her, her application had triggered federal scrutiny. Uncle James, County Commissioner James Whitaker, my godfather, had been investigating grant fraud for 2 years. Claiming authority over an unmapped major source raised alarms. Dr. Lawson had tipped him off about odd inquiries into my property matching fraud patterns. I learned Pinehaven's timeline. Construction starting soon, lots marketed with exclusive spring water, dependent on seizing my rights. Uncle James's advice: give her rope, document everything, let her cross federal lines. The chance came with her emergency community meeting on the water crisis, inviting media and officials to see her presentation and condemn me. FBI agents attended disguised as citizens, recording everything. The center was packed. Eleanor gave a slick show, beautiful images, stolen technical data, claims of grant approval, assertions of HOA rights over water affecting the community. Questions came, she handled them, until Uncle James asked about private property jurisdiction. I stood and noted the application's false statements. She attacked personally, more evidence. Uncle James revealed himself and the investigation. Agents stood, badges out, arresting her amid chaos and cameras. Her facade crumbled. Charges followed quickly, multiple felonies, company dissolved, network exposed across states. Later, Victoria Reed brought news. I had met the will's conditions, unlocking a $50 million conservation endowment. We founded the Harold Kensington Watershed Foundation. The spring gained federal protection. We built real, educational features Eleanor had faked. It became a national example. Values rose. Trust healed. Eleanor served 8 years, later sending a letter blaming me, showing little remorse. The spring flows steadily, protected by law, community, and true stewardship. Justice, like clear water, always finds its path in the end. Now, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever dealt with bullying, abuse of power, or outright injustice in your own neighborhood? Maybe from an overreaching HOA, a corrupt official, or someone who thought they were above the rules. How did you stand up to it? Or what do you wish you had done differently? Where do you draw the line on forgiveness versus full accountability for those who exploit trust and resources meant for the public good? Share your experiences and your firm opinions. These stories matter. They remind us we're not alone, and they might give someone else the courage to fight back against unfairness in their own life.